In 1987 at the Cannes Film Festival, one important entry to the film competition was a Chinese movie directed by Huang Zhangxin called The Black Cannon Incident. The movie was included for many reasons, but foremost, it reflects a view of China in the 1980s by a Chinese citizen about the state of the country from a combined political and economic view. It is important to understand the backdrop against which this movie was made. In the 1980s, China remained a fairly closed society with a dominant socialist-communist political machinery headed by Deng Xiaoping. Independent political thought or action were not encouraged or tolerated. Huang's film provides a unique commentary on a moment in Chinese history when the past was not treated as referentially and the future of politics, economics, and private ownership was hatching. Huang, as a filmmaker, provided a creative view on the circumstances of China. In many ways, filmmakers, uniquely in the creative class, were able to satirize and criticize the Chinese government in a way that straight political discourse could not. Feature films are a useful source of information on the elusive topic of popular political thought. As noted by Paul Pikowitz, the films produced in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s had an official feel and, with few exceptions, glorified the state and party. But many of the most popular films of the early 1980s seemed different. The Black Cannon Incident is exactly such a film. Huang, like other fifth-generation makers, studied at the Beijing Film Academy. However, the content of his films and the scrutiny of his lens centered on contemporary urban life rather than past events. The plot of the Black Cannon Incident is quite simple. The protagonist, Zhao Shuxin, is employed as an engineer and German translator at a large company. He is a solitary man with a single interest outside of work, to play Chinese chess. He is an able worker and does his job with thoroughness and competence. In the process of his work, he is befriended by Hans, an outside German investor, with whom he forges an independent bond. In what becomes the pivotal event of the plot, when on a business trip, Zhao loses one of his beloved chess pieces, the Black Cannon. Upon returning home and realizing the loss, he sends a telegram to the hotel which reads, "Missing Black Cannon, 301, searching, Zhao." The telegram, innocently written, sets off a firestorm of events. Intercepted by the authorities and read with a most notorious inference, Zhao is suspected of wrongdoing and is removed from his post as a translator at the company. He is replaced by Feng Liangkai, a translator who lacks Zhao's skills. Feng normally translates for foreign tourists and thus lacks the technical expertise Zhao possesses. Hans immediately recognizes Feng's inferiority and turns to Zhao for help. Additionally, Hans requests that Zhao be reinstated to his post. However, party leaders decline to do so. The plot develops as the plant manager advocates for Zhao's reinstatement when he realizes that the telegram does indeed refer to a simple missing chess piece. The dire consequence at the end of the film reflects Huang's message. As a result of Feng's lack of fluency with technical terms, he makes a critical mistake in mistranslating the word bearing to mean bracket. This mistranslation leads to a breakdown of the WD machine, which is both costly and embarrassing. In the end, the mystery of the meaning of the telegram is made crystal clear when a package is opened by Zhu, a loyal party member, and the plant manager. Inside is the chess piece, a black chess piece known to gamers as the cannon. The plot, while simple, is a strong condemnation of Chinese bureaucracy, unquestioning loyalty, unwavering suspicion, and group action. In 1985, when Huang directed the Black Cannon Incident, China was in the throes of extreme change. There was recognition that, after a decade of reforms, the door needed to be opened for new political structures, but more so for economic change. The goal was to stimulate rigorous competition and to achieve the four modernizations for society. A key idea was the task of government to shift from revolution to reform and to raise economic production and living standards rather than simply to restore order. Mao's death in 1976 paved the way for a new breed of reform-oriented leaders and for a systematic overhaul of political thought and economic reality. Huang powerfully documents the changing ideas by satirizing the rigid grip of the Communist Party. One of the most powerful images of the film is the party meeting room. The room is bright white and is dominated by a long white table. Party members are seated around the table, dutifully looking at Zhu, the leader of the party committee for the factory. Behind Zhu is an enormous clock with black hands. The clock hands clearly and powerfully mark the passing of time. Time seems to be the focus just as much as what Zhu is saying. The party, in its wisdom, decides to keep Zhao from completing his important work as a German translator, even though the evidence of his wrongdoing is extremely vague. The options are many. They could ask him what he meant by sending the telegram, readily retrace his recent travel, or interview fellow workers to determine the telegram's meaning. None of those actions are taken, and instead, words are construed in their most nefarious sense, and as a result, the project is compromised and the company is shamed. Clearly, Huang is commenting on the absurdity and paranoia of party control. People are suspected of the worst and are powerless when it comes to proving their worth. The system persists because fear of reprisal for independent thought reigns. Even the simple act of sending a telegram regarding a lost game piece can be misconstrued. Just as the political system was changing, so too the economic landscape was shifting at the time Huang directed the Black Cannon incident. The mining factory at which Zhao worked diligently to build the WD machine was wholly government-owned and run. In 1985, there was a growing recognition that a private sector in some fashion would benefit and strengthen China's economy. Prior to reform, economic decisions were made by bureaucratic actors who were insulated from most of the direct economic consequences of their actions, and who did not in any case have meaningful prices to guide them in decision-making. Zhu and his party cohorts aptly capture exactly this phenomenon. They remove a highly skilled and critical worker from his post simply because he sent a vague telegram. However, by 1987, Deng acknowledged the need to be progressive when it came to the economy, and even to open the door to the outside world, but not to allow heterodox foreign ideas to take too firm a root and challenge the primacy of the party. The goal of opening the economy to new forms of privatization previously forbidden was to improve the quality of life and to gain economic equivalency to neighboring countries. Again, Huang cleverly exposes the flaws in the old economic party-run order. One misstep having nothing to do with business causes a break in the production chain and triggers numerous meetings and lengthy discussions. A private company run for the purpose of making the best product and the most money would certainly grant a key worker greater protection and be more interested in a worker's skills than simply in his personal affairs. The absurd way in which paranoia trumps economic interests is ably told by Zhao's suspension. His suspension also suggests the absurdity of Deng's policy of opening up the economy to the outside world, while at the same time trying to hold the world at arm's length politically. Huang shows that this is a stark contradiction and that has disastrous consequences for Chinese citizens. He proves that if China wants to develop economically, it should increase its political reforms and allow more freedom in society as well as the economy. The Black Cannon incident provides an interesting and bold perspective on China in a moment when the country was attempting to jettison the failures of the past and recognize the need for change and reform. Huang created a paradoxical foil in the character of Zhao. He is the perfect party man, a loyal worker, productive and diligent, whose one pleasure is an innocent one. Even so, this innocent man could easily be mistaken for a guilty one when autocratic party scrutiny trumps independent and careful thought. Huang sets forth a series of ridiculous events centered on a simple misunderstanding, and the result is disastrous. Like any good filmmaker, the ideas are clear to the viewers. Movie watchers both inside China as well as internationally could not and still do not mistake the message of the Black Cannon incident. In the movie's closing scene, Zhao naively questions, "Why can't I send a telegram of my own?" Wang ably answers that question throughout the movie. Given that there was very little I in 1980s China and that paranoia and mistrust were the guiding principles of those in authority, an act as simple as searching for missing personal property can cause a chain reaction of events.